look at this image, actually, don't just look at it. Think about what it represents. We spent billions of dollars to build a telescope that could see the very beginning of time. We expected to find small, flickering baby stars, the kind that struggle to stay alive in a young, chaotic universe. But what the James Webb Telescope actually found, well, it doesn't fit the map we've been using for 50 years. It found giants where there should be nothing but dust. They are being called dark stars. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like another over-the-top space story, right? Honestly, I thought the same thing when the first reports came out. But when you look at the actual data coming out of the labs, the silence from the experts is what is really loud. The timeline we all learned in school has a massive hole in it. And that hole is exactly where these objects are sitting. I want to make a deal with you. If you stay with me until the end of this, I promise that this mystery will actually make sense. You'll see why our history books aren't necessarily wrong, but they are definitely missing the most important chapter. I'll show you why the beginning of everything wasn't just a bright flash, but something much colder and much more mysterious. Most people think stars are like giant campfires. They burn fuel until they run out and then they go out. But these dark stars, they don't work like that. They aren't burning fuel from the inside. They are being kept alive by something invisible. Think of it like a ghost fuel that we call dark matter. It's like a car that runs on the air around it instead of the gas in the tank. It sounds like science fiction, and for a long time, it was. Scientists used to talk about these as maybe or if there was a lot of disagreement. But Webb just sent back images of 3 specific objects that look exactly like those old math problems. They are so big they could swallow our entire solar system and not even notice. If these things are what we think they are, then the Big Bang didn't happen the way your teachers told you. It means the universe had a secret life before the lights even came on. The mistake most people make is thinking these are just regular stars that happen to grow big. But the error isn't in the size, it's in the age. There is one specific measurement, a single number that proves we might be looking at the wrong map entirely. If that number is right, these stars shouldn't just be rare, they should be impossible. And that number is hidden in how these giants actually stay held together. Let me show you the first piece of evidence that made the team at NASA stop celebrating and start questioning everything. So, what is that impossible number I mentioned? It's not the size, it's the age. According to every book we have, the universe was just a baby when these things appeared. It's like finding a fully grown man in a room where only infants are supposed to be. It just shouldn't happen. Now, let's look at how a normal star works, because this is where the confusion starts. Imagine a star is like a giant balloon made of gas. Gravity is like a pair of invisible hands trying to crush that balloon from the outside. But inside the star, there's a nuclear engine. It's pushing back with incredible heat. It's a constant tug-of-war that keeps the star alive and bright. But these dark stars, they don't have that engine. There is no nuclear fire in their heart. And honestly, when the researchers first saw this data, many of them thought the telescope was glitching. They checked the sensors. They ran the numbers again. Because if there's no fire pushing out, why hasn't gravity crushed these things into nothing? This is where things get really uncomfortable for the people who wrote our physics laws. The power isn't coming from the inside. It's coming from that ghost fuel I mentioned, dark matter. Think of it like this. Imagine you have a smartphone that doesn't have a battery. Instead, it just pulls power out of the air around it. It never needs to be plugged in. It never runs out. That's what these stars are doing. They are eating the dark matter that exists everywhere in space. And because there is so much of it, these stars can grow to be 1,000,000 times heavier than our sun, I'm not being dramatic here. 1,000,000. Our sun would look like a tiny grain of sand sitting next to a skyscraper. But here's the problem that is keeping people up at night. If these stars exist, they change the timeline of everything. The Big Bang Theory says stars took a very long time to form and grow. But these giants were already there, fully grown, right at the very start. I've looked at the debates happening online between astronomers, and it's getting heated. Some say, no, these are just regular galaxies that look like stars, because they are so far away. It's a fair point. In science, you have to be a skeptic. You have to try to prove yourself wrong. But there's a specific pattern in the light coming from these objects of fingerprint that doesn't match a galaxy. It matches a single, massive, cold object that a current maps is impossible. And this leads us to a very unsettling question. If the engine of these stars is dark matter, what happens when they finally run out of food? Most people think they just fade away into the dark, but the reality is much more violent. There's a secret hidden in the way these stars die that explains something else Webb found, something even bigger, something that might explain where the giant black holes in our universe actually came from. Wait until you see what happens when one of these giants finally collapses. It's not a pretty explosion. It's the birth of a monster that shouldn't exist either. Let's talk about that monster I mentioned. You've heard of black holes, right? Usually, we're told they are born when a normal star runs out of fuel and collapses. It's like a building falling in on itself. But there's a massive problem with that story. In the center of almost every galaxy, including ours, there is a supermassive black hole. These things are millions, sometimes billions of times heavier than our sun. For years, scientists have been scratching their heads. If black holes grow by eating nearby gas, and stars one bite at a time, how did they get so big so fast? It's like walking into a playground and seeing a 5-year-old kid who is 10 feet tall and weighs 400 pounds. You'd ask, what on earth has this kid been eating? The math just doesn't add up. There hasn't been enough time since the beginning of the universe for these monsters to grow that large, unless they didn't start small. This is where the dark stars come in, and why some researchers are starting to look a bit pale. If these giant dark stars Webb found are real, they are the missing link. Remember how I said they are powered by dark matter? When that invisible fuel finally runs out, the star doesn't just fade away. Because it's already so massive, it doesn't even bother with a big explosion. It just collapses. It skips the baby phase and becomes a giant black hole instantly. It's like skipping the bricks and just manifesting a whole skyscraper out of thin air. This would explain why we see these monsters so early in the universe's history. But honestly, this is where the Big Bang starts to feel the pressure. If these stars were already there, and they were already becoming giant black holes just a few 100 million years after the start, then the universe was busy way earlier than we thought. Think about the Big Bang like a starting gun at a race. We thought everyone started at the same time, at the same line. But Webb is showing us that some runners were already halfway to the finish line before the gun even went off. Some scientists are trying to stay calm. They say, maybe we just don't understand how fast gravity works. But others are starting to whisper something much more radical. They are wondering if the starting gun happened much earlier than we calculated. If you change the date of the Big Bang, you change everything. You change the age of the Earth, the way galaxies form, and the fate of the entire universe. But there's a catch. If these things are dark stars, they should be, well, dark. Dark matter doesn't give off light. So, how is a telescope that looks for light actually seeing them? There is a very specific trick these stars use to glow, and when I figured it out, it actually gave me chills. It's not light like we know it. It's a signal that proves we might be looking at a different kind of physics entirely. Wait until you hear what happens to the light when it hits the edge of one of these things. It's the one piece of the puzzle that proves this isn't just a mistake in the lens. So, if these stars are dark, how did we actually find them? That's the question that kept me up when I first read the research. It feels like a trick, doesn't it? If they are made of dark matter, they should be invisible to our eyes and our cameras. But here is how the James Webb Telescope actually caught them. They have a ghostly glow. Imagine a deep-sea fish living in the total darkness of the bottom of the ocean. It doesn't have a flashlight, but its own body gives off a faint, weird light because of the chemistry inside it. That's these stars. Research teams are suggesting that the dark matter inside them is constantly crashing into itself. And every time that happens, it lets off a tiny bit of heat. Now, the James Webb isn't just a camera. It's basically the world's most expensive heat sensor. It can see that faint warmth from across the entire universe. But when the experts looked at these 3 stars, they realized something that made them pause. These might not just be stars. They could be the seeds of everything we see today. Think about building a house. The rules say you have to pour the foundation first, then the walls, then the roof. That's how we thought galaxies were built slowly, piece by piece. But Webb is showing us what looks like a roof floating in the air before the foundation is even dry. It's a massive puzzle. And it's leading some astronomers to suggest something that sounds almost impossible. I'm usually the first person to stay skeptical when someone says everything you know is a lie. But the people looking at this data are the same ones who spent 20 years building this telescope. In some research circles, there is a debate starting that could change our entire timeline. There is a specific distortion in the light, a ripple in the data that these teams are studying very closely. If their interpretation of that ripple is correct, we aren't just looking at the start of our universe. Some are starting to wonder if the universe is much older than 13 billion years. Maybe even double that. It would mean the Big Bang wasn't the very beginning, but just one chapter in a much longer story. Now, I know that sounds like a huge leap, and many scientists are still working hard to prove the old theory right. But there is one final piece of evidence that is very hard to explain away. It's about where these giant dark stars went. Why don't we see them in our neighborhood today? The answer is hiding inside the one place in the universe where no light can ever escape. And what we've found in there is the hardest question the Big Bang Theory has ever had to face. So, let's solve the mystery. If these giant dark stars were everywhere in the beginning, why are they gone now? Why is our night sky filled with regular, burning stars instead of these invisible giants? The answer is actually quite beautiful, though it's causing a lot of arguments in the hallways of NASA. These stars didn't just die. They weren't a mistake or a random event. A growing number of researchers believe they were the scaffolding for everything you see when you look up at night. Think of it like building a massive skyscraper. When the workers are building it, they use giant metal frames and wooden boards to hold everything up. But once the building is finished, you take the frames away. You don't need them anymore. The dark stars were that frame. They lived fast, they grew to impossible sizes, and then they collapsed. And when they did, they didn't just leave an empty space. They became the seeds. The giant black holes at the center of every galaxy, including our own. Milky Way might just be the ghosts of these dark stars. This is the big payoff. This is why the Big Bang Theory is feeling the heat. If this is true, the universe didn't start with a simple flash that slowly turned into stars. It started with a dark, heavy age where these monsters ruled the dark. It means the universe had a prehistory that we are just now starting to see. Now, does this mean we should burn the physics books? Not yet. Science is slow, and it should be. For every researcher saying the Big Bang is in trouble, there's another one looking for a way to save it. They are looking for data that might show Webb is seeing something else entirely, maybe very old galaxies that just look like stars. But here is the reality we have to face. The more we look, the more the old story feels like it's missing the first 10 pages. We used to think we lived in a universe that was simple and easy to track. But Webb is showing us a place that is older, weirder, and much more crowded than we ever imagined. We are standing at a point where our map of the stars is being redrawn in real time. And it turns out, the dark part of the universe isn't just empty space. It's the engine that built the home we live in today. But there is a dangerous side to this. If dark matter can create stars that swallow solar systems, we have to ask what else it's doing right now. Some experts are starting to look much closer to home inside our own neighborhood. Because if these giants were the seeds of galaxies, then the same invisible force might be hidden right under our noses. And it's doing something to our own sun that we're only just beginning to measure. That secret isn't at the edge of the universe. It's happening right here, and you can see the evidence of it in this video on the screen right now.